Welcome back to, I guess, this series and also this channel. It's been a little while since I made that first video about the head on the Cleveland and the Thunderbird and that other project we got. But in that video, I had mentioned that I had another car that I was excited to show you guys, which was my Buick Regal. And basically with that car, I want to show you guys the same thing I was showing you with the Thunderbird. And that's, how to go fast for cheap and, for someone who doesn't want to, get too involved. So similar to the Thunderbird project, the whole idea around this was buying a car that was kind of semi-complete and then kind of going above and beyond with it with the leftover budget that I had to really make a nice, fast car. And basically what I got to show you guys with that is I got this Buick that I got from a good guy I know. His name's Keith, and he builds a lot of cars, parts them out. And this car is a 1980 Buick Regal. It was originally a V6 car. Swap with the 5.3, the Vortec, BTR, Truck Norris cam, stage 3, the springs and all that. A bunch of upgraded stuff on the motor, like Escalade injectors, this and that. I mean, a lot of that stuff's going to be going out, but starting out, it was a ripper to begin with. It was an all right car. And then behind the motor, you got a turbo 400 with a B&M shift kit, a 2800 stall B&M converter, and that's also a very good deal. Getting all that stuff already with this car fabricated in, fitting already, real good. And then out back we've got a posi rear with the 373, so that whole setup in theory should be able to get us going down the track, or at least going down the street pretty freaking fast. And that's kind of what I was preaching in the first video about how you can get these combinations for pretty cheap. And if you want to get serious with it, it doesn't take too much to really get it going. And, that's what I'm going to get into now. So, the whole, kind of cap I've been putting on these cars in my mind is kind of like, between $8,000 and $9,000 to me is the most I want to be spending in total to make these cars, go 8s, 9s down the track, kind of like the Sloppy Mechanic series. So that being said, having only spent around $5,500 on this car, it leaves me a ton of budget to do all the rest of the stuff. And that is, all the stuff that's on the car right now and the stuff that I've got coming to show you guys later. So what's on the car right now is just a basic eBay turbo kit, 76 millimeter turbo. It was a pretty cheap deal. It was an $800 deal. And you got the headers, the causal pipe, everything to put the thing in the car, all mocked up. It's in there right now. I'll show it later. And then the intercooler, which I also got, I'm gonna show you later. And that together, that's only around $1,000. You put that, the intercooler and the turbo together and all the oil lines and stuff that I'm gonna have to fabricate. It's around $1,000. And then fuel pump and injectors, you're looking at maybe $400, $500 there. And then that's pretty much it for all that I need. And then I will be spending money on the tune and all that, but even then we're looking at, inside of my budget, a pretty nasty build for only around $8,000. And I think it's something that a lot of guys, this is something that guys used to do a lot. I don't see guys doing it too much these days. And I'm watching a lot of these videos getting going in the forums. A lot of the stuff is old, so I kind of wanted to put it out there for the guys that want to go fast. I want to, have fun and be competitive at the track, and, don't really know where to go, because it seems like these days guys are, just not into the sport of, drag racing at all, or they're already, so far ahead that it's, hard to catch up. These guys are building, door slammers and stuff. So, I kind of want to show how we can get into it and, be serious and, have some fun for not that much money, and not really too much brain breaking either. So I'm gonna go over to the car, show you guys, you know, everything mocked up, go into a little more detail about, you know, the parts and stuff and what it takes. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This part was, the beginning part was kind of just me explaining why I'm doing this project with this car. But when I show you guys the car and all that, I'll kind of go into, you know, why it's so affordable for the reasons, you know, for the actual parts and the price of them. So yeah, I'll go over there, show you guys some parts, and then, you know, that'll be it. All right, here's the car. Like I was saying, just 1980 Buick Regal G-body car. It was originally a V6, but obviously it's got this motor in it now. And this is, you know, what I wanted to show you when I said that, you know, sometimes you can get a pretty decent race car for, you know, a pretty good deal. Again, 5,500. If, you know, let's say the turbo wasn't there, but this thing had the headers on it, full exhaust. It was a running, driving car. You know, a really good starting point. But like I said, let's say you have a truck, an old truck, you could do all this same stuff. It's just really, you know, not that much if you've got a good place to start from. So the only thing that I've added so far is this turbo kit, the 76 millimeter turbo, this intercooler tubing, and I got the intercooler down there, I'll show you guys. But when you know, having the motor in there, you know, and having all of this already makes it so much easier to just take headers off, put the manifold on, and now you're ready to go. The only thing I got to worry about now is routing oil lines and finishing up the fuel system. So like I said, if you had the stock truck, all you need to do, you know, put this kit on. That's just the bolt-on part. You know, route the oil. I'm gonna have a sandwich adapter for the oil filter, pull it straight from the oil filter up to the top, and then we're gonna drain down into the side of the oil pan. I'm gonna drill a hole, put a bung in there, and it'll just, you know, snake around the side. And that's the whole setup for the turbo. This kit itself isn't even for a G body or anything. This was for like a truck, a Silverado. It was for the motor. And, you know, if the motor was in there, you know, the other stuff had to fit. I had to do some finessing, but, you know, it was, you know, it was still easy and able to be done. And then after that, all you're looking at doing really is upgrading injectors. This has injectors from, you know, just a Denali, so flex fuel stuff. And but you pull them out, we're gonna put in an 80-pound injector, so obviously you get higher flow from when you're in boost. And that's just pulling the rail out, replacing the injector, put the rail back in, and then out back. For this, you know, having a more race-oriented swap car makes it easier, because I already have the external fuel pump going on, and I'll be replacing the 275 LPH pump I've got right now with a 400 LPH pump. That's about what you're gonna need if you're gonna run a turbo car and really trying to be getting into it. So, you know, obviously for this car, it's a, you know, plug and play deal, because external pump, it's pretty much gonna go in the same exact amount. You know, if you had the truck, it might be a little more difficult, but if you're getting a swap car, chances are it's gonna have the external pump and you'll be right as rain. So once you do that, if your car had a startup tune, to be honest, you're probably looking at a startup right there. The rest of the money in this build, you know, outside of what I just named there, is really gonna come from, you know, me trying to tune the car, because I'm gonna have to buy the HP tuner stuff, the wideband. But, you know, even that, some, you know, a lot of videos online and stuff in the forums, not too, you know, tall of a task if you really be careful with it. And, you know, hoping that I don't, you know, mess up the motor too bad, and I feel confident in my tune, I'll share it with you guys and show, you know, how it can be kind of easy to get it running right. So, you know, like I said, I was saying earlier about the parts and all that, this is everything mocked up how it is right now. It's pretty cold out, so I haven't really been able to work too much, and where it is right now, it's probably where it's going to sit until like mid-February or March. But once that time rolls around and I get to the oil lines and putting a radiator and all that stuff, I'll take some videos of me doing that stuff, and we'll get real close to startup. You know, like I said, this thing is ready to go almost. We got the intercooler piping, intercooler itself, which I'm just gonna drill some holes underneath the radiator support, bolt into the top there, zip it up, and then have the piping come out over here. I'll probably get rid of this. This was for if the car was gonna go blower. And then, yeah, right back into the throttle body, and we'll be ready to go. So, you know, like I said, I'm really excited to start taking these cars to the track and, you know, getting them running and fired up in the summertime and springtime. And if you guys hold on just a little bit longer, you know, it's going to be a wild ride. So thanks for sticking around if you did. And yeah, if you stick on this channel, we got some really cool stuff coming, not in the very far future. So yeah.